Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today I want to talk about the best IEM you can buy. So I have a bunch of these Ziigaat IEMs in front of me and I tested these. So we have the Odyssey 2 right here, which is the newest one, and we have the Odyssey 1s, the old ones. So I can compare how the new one sounds compared to the old one. This is kind of a collaboration with Hangout slash Critical, right? The audio reviewer. So that's going to be an interesting one. And then we also have the old Luna right here. This is the one that I thought was one of the best they had before. So I'm bringing back an old one to compare it to the newer ones. And then we also have the Crescent right here, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty nice name. And then we have the Horizon right here as well, which is another newer one. So we're going to compare all these. They're a little different. Like the Horizon right here is a tri-bridge, so it has like an EST driver in there, which makes it kind of special. It sounds pretty nice. They also have very different driver configurations here. So like the Odyssey 2 actually has a BioCellulus Gen 2 driver, and it sounds honestly really, really nice. That's one of the best bass drivers I've ever heard. And like I said, the EST drivers up here are very fast, lightning fast, to give you a really good amount of detail on the Horizon. I think that most makes it kind of stand out a little bit more. Then we have 6 BA drivers on the Luna. I think it really does have a dialed-in tuning, but the BA drivers with playing kind of bass and stuff isn't, as hard hitting as something like the BioCellulus on the Odyssey 2. So there's definitely things to watch out for that. And then the Crescent actually has 2 dynamic drivers playing the bass. So it does have a lot of fun amount of punch and like bass. I do think the bass sound of the I guess the BioCellulus driver, the Odyssey 2, I might slightly prefer over the Crescent, but the Crescent definitely is a little bit unique in the sense that it has 2 dynamic drivers and then 2 BA drivers. So yeah, different driver configurations for kind of a slightly different sound. And then the Odyssey 1 uses a similar configuration as the as the newer Odyssey 2 with 1 dynamic driver and 3 BA drivers. So I think the easiest way to start this off is comparing the old Odyssey 1 with the new Odyssey 2, right? So the biggest difference, like I said, is that BioCellulus driver. You could definitely hear just how much more just thumpy it sounds. The sub bass and the subwoofer sounds literally like a subwoofer. If you ever went to a concert and you stood next to one of those big monsters, that's kind of what it sounds like. It does a very, very good job. It definitely has this emphasized bass that, honestly, if you like a lot of EDM music, a lot of rock, a lot of modern genres, a lot of pop, you're gonna really like this kind of bass driver. It just sounds so juicy, so good. It's definitely the standout characteristic of this. In comparison to the first Odyssey, it's actually pretty different on the type of accessories you get. Like you get pretty different stuff. Like the new one, you get a swappable balance cable. So you can see this is a balance cable. This is a 3.5, but you can actually take this one off and then put in a 3.5 millimeter. So I could take this one and then kind of pop it on there for a 3.5 millimeter. If you don't like that, you can just pop back on the balance cable. So the fact that you get a swappable tip in itself is really great. So you get 2 cables in one. So yeah, that's a marked, honestly, improvement. Obviously, you can see that this Odyssey 2 gets a special preferential treatment, is what I like to call it, because honestly, maybe because they did this as a collab with Hangout, but this thing gets a green cable. None of these get green cables. They all get these kind of standard black cables. They all have the similar design. This guy gets the special cable. So it's a nicer looking cable. And this also gets this special shell too. All these basically have a similar type of shell. They have this kind of like resin shell that's very comfortable, honestly, to wear. But this one gets a metal coated shell, which honestly, it looks nice because it like kind of covers it. It feels a little bit more premium. But I do think that actually when it fits like in my ear and kind of how it feels, it does feel cold, right? Because it's metal. So you can definitely feel the coolness when you first touch it. It also feels a little bit larger and just overall less actual comfortable than the normal shell. So I think I actually do prefer the normal shell, even though it does look a little nicer, a little shinier, a little bit more premium looking. And you even get a different type of text on here too, as the other ones have the classic kind of yellow text on there. So there's definitely a difference between the shell. And then besides that, they all get the same tips. I mean, basically take a look at the accessories. You basically get very similar stuff. So you get white tips in small, medium, large, and then black tips in the same. And then you get a pair of phone tips as well. Then you get an extra head for each of these new Ziigats. So you get a lot more accessories than you get with the old stuff where you get only one cable and one type of tip, and that's it. The last upgrade you also get is just the different cases. So the new case is this nice kind of brown case. They all come with the same case. And then the old case is the black one right here that we have that's got. Just doesn't look as nice, right? It's smaller. It does hold some accessories, but you know, the new one definitely has a different place that can actually hold your kind of IEMs and stuff like that. So it's just overall a more premium and nicer experience on the new stuff, right? But let's talk about the thing you guys care the most about between the Odysseys is the sound, right? So the new and the old sound. I would say there's some ways the old sound could sound better. Like I feel like the old Odyssey actually kind of sounded a little bit more emphasized in the treble. A lot of the higher notes just come off a little bit more natural sounding to me. They sound a little dull sounding on the new Odyssey 2. But in comparison, the bass just sounds a lot more juicy on the new Odyssey. The mid-range also just sounds a little bit better too on the new Odyssey. So I think the kind of where a lot of the female vocals sit and their voices, they do kind of stand out a little bit more on the Odyssey 2 than the 1. But for these differences, honestly, and the difference in price, I think is like a $30 increase in price for these. Honestly, I would just go for Odyssey 2. You just get so much more in accessories and a slightly refined type of tuning. So it's definitely worth it over the 1. But hey, I mean, if you kind of look at what they look like, they kind of have different colors, but they still maintain the same kind of like, I guess, silver on the bottom. But yeah, overall, I do think the Odyssey 2 is just a better value, honestly. So let's compare the Odyssey to the Crescent. So I find that the Odyssey is, you know, a little bit less comfortable than the Crescent. The Crescent, of course, it doesn't have that metal frame, but I do find it just a little bit more comfortable in my ear. They're basically the same accessories, you know, different color cable, very similar. So let's just talk about the sound, right? So when it comes to the sound, I would say I actually think the Crescent has better treble. It just seems to be emphasized a little bit more. It's a little dark sounding on the Odyssey 2. So overall, I think the Crescent actually sounds a little bit more consistent to me. Throughout like the mid-range and treble, I do actually like it better. But when it comes to the bass, it's a little bit of a toss-up. You know, you get that, you know, biocellulose, like deep emphasized bass on the Odyssey 2 versus you get these double drivers type of bass on the Crescent. I do still find that I do like the Odyssey 2 bass better. I feel like if I was choosing between those two, I still prefer the Odyssey 2. So if you're like me, then you might like that. And these are kind of similar in price points. So like, you know, if I had to decide which one I would actually buy and choose, I probably slightly lean towards the Odyssey 2 if you like more bass. If you're more about vocals and stuff, then you might like the Crescent more. Now let's talk about the Luna and the Horizon, which I think it's about time I tell you which one is my favorite because we're kind of getting to them, honestly. I'd say if I was gonna rank these, I would probably say I probably would put Odyssey 1 as last. I mean, it's just because, you know, if you're buying the Odyssey 1, it's a little bit of an older, you know, you get less stuff with it, so you might as well just buy the newer stuff, to be honest. The next in line would probably be the Crescent. I would say, you know, I think the Odyssey 2 just has a little bit of a better bass driver that I do enjoy a little bit more. Just that small minor difference makes me think I like the Odyssey 2 better. So I would put the Crescent as 4th place for me. And then, of course, this would be 3rd place. And then I would say these two are my 1st and 2nd places. So in 2nd place, I have the Luna, right? So the Luna has 6 BA drivers. 2 of them are actually subwoofer BAs, which is to me like an oxymoron because to me I don't think BAs can play bass that well, but they actually do play bass like pretty decent for BAs. They're not that bad. They're pretty clean sounding, but they lack the largeness factor. They don't really move the air as much. They don't really punch as much. Like when you listen to something like on the Odyssey 2, it really just, you know, it just shines way more. It's just a lot better. It's a completely different experience, honestly. So I would say that is the weakness of the kind of Luna, but for me, where it really shines is kind of the overall tuning, the mid-range, the treble, how well the drivers kind of play together. You can definitely hear how they're just very in sync. Like if you're playing like a FPS, a shooting game, you can definitely hear your left, your right, in front of you, below you. It's very like well tuned, very in line, and you tell your directional accuracy really well. I just find them overall to be very natural, very nice sounding pair, and they don't really sound too bright sounding either, and they just sound really natural to me. So I really do like that part about them. And I think that's the thing that stands out the most to me. I would say it's the second best tuned one on this table, and I really do care about tuning the most. And then that leads us to the Tribrid, which is the Horizon. The Horizon to me is honestly in a different league than the rest of these on the table. I think the Tribrid design, where it has a dynamic driver for the bass, it has the BAs for like the mid range, and then the treble, and then the ultra higher treble has the EST drivers. I think those EST drivers really takes the detail and the treble, just clarity, to a different level that I don't really hear in the rest of these, to be honest. And I would say one thing about it is maybe it slightly got a little bright in the treble. In some cases I would hear it, sometimes I wouldn't hear it, but overall that extra just treble and that clarity is just beyond what these other ones can really kind of get you up there. I think that ESC driver really does make it. And I think when I listen to this too, the overall tuning of it is also to my preference. Like I really like it. You get this fun bass. I think this is the most natural sounding IEM I have heard so far, especially from Ziigaat's line. This is honestly one of my favorite ones. It is a very, 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 very good tuning. The bass driver actually would be, funny enough, I would say not as good as the Odyssey. Again, I keep saying that, but it's just to emphasize how good the bass driver is in Odyssey too. I think my perfect IEM would be you just take that bass driver, put it into this IEM, and keep the mid-range, the treble the same, and that would be a amazing sounding thing. But for this one, the bass driver here does still sound really good. You can hear it. It's a really fun type of bass sound. But I think the detail that you get and the natural sound and how it's just locked in tuning. This thing is just honestly locked in. Like if you listen to this and you listen to speakers, they sound very, very, very similar. Like the best tuned speakers and the best tuned IEMs, I feel like they sound very, very similar. And that's where honestly it really shines. So in terms of just detail, amazing, tuning, amazing, and then even like competitive gaming, like obviously like imaging, right? If you can tell where the sounds are coming from, this thing also does really well. Like if I wanted to just play competitive shooters, gaming, I would pick this one over all the rest as well. So even if it's not on this table, it's probably one of the best I've heard so far too. So I have nothing but great things to say about the Horizon. And if you're asking me which one should I buy, you should buy this one. It's a no-brainer for me, honestly. But if we can talk about really the difference between this and the other one is just the different kind of color. We got this little nice black over here, this white, and then this little blue. I mean, it has a pretty similar aesthetic to the rest. It just kind of mixed a bunch of colors together, but really it's the sound that matters the most. And those EST drivers on here just honestly destroy. They're just amazing. And yeah, they did a great job. So I hope this video helped you guys. Please like and subscribe down below. Helps my videos out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.